Welcome once again, everybody. Today we're going to go over the ACT English. I'm trying a new audio approach today. I've got the mic right up in my face. And I'm also going to do a little bit of post-processing in Audacity. I used to do this for podcasts. I didn't think it would be necessary for the videos, but I have heard that the audio quality was a little So we'll do what we can. Hopefully it'll turn out nicer. Today we're talking about the English section. So the English section, most of my students don't find this too tricky. But there are a couple of things, especially around using punctuation to split up sentences, that tend to be pretty difficult for a lot of people, and that tends to be where most people are losing their points here. So the English test, 45 minutes, 75 questions. You might look at that and say, wow, that is not a lot of time, but a lot of these questions go by really fast. Since I'm going to do a lot of explaining, these will not go by too quickly, so we'll take it one passage at a time so we don't have, an hour-long video or whatever. So, as always, just skip this initial section. It's pointless. The general process is you want to finish reading to the end of a sentence for every single prompt, and then check the underlined thing and see what the best option is. Some of these will be a little bit different. If we look at, say, question 7 here, they give a little bit of a prompt. This is going to be very important for us to read, but the general flow is just to pick the best option here. So let's look at number 1. Snowflakes form from tiny water droplets following the specific process of chemical bonding as they freeze, which results in a 6-sided figure. Okay, so we got a couple different answer choices here, and they all involve where to put commas. So we have the option of putting a comma between form and from. We have the option of putting a comma between tiny and water. And then we have an option of putting a comma after droplets. So first thing we can immediately dispense with is the form and from. Commas are used to separate ideas in a sentence, and if you have a prepositional phrase like this, it already does enough to be like, oh, this from, whatever's downstream of this prepositional phrase is distinct from the sentence. It's just a prepositional phrase. So immediately B and D are out. Never any punctuation between something and then a preposition. So snowflakes form from tiny water droplets, comma, following a specific process of chemical bonding as they freeze, which results in a 6-sided figure. Or snowflakes form from tiny, comma, water, comma, droplets, no comma. So this comma here ends up being very important, and why this is because this is what you need to separate an independent and a non-independent piece of a sentence. So when I talk about independent and non-independent, I'm going to use I and N for independent and non-independent. So snowflakes form from tiny water droplets is an independent sentence. It's something that I could say to you and you'd be like, okay, I understand that. You don't feel like I missed something or I forgot to say some words. This next part, however, following a specific process of chemical bonding as they freeze, which results in a 6-sided figure, is like, okay, I feel like you forgot to say something. There's a piece of the sentence that is missing. So that's non-independent. To link an independent and a non-independent, you want to use a comma. Note that this doesn't matter which way that this is arranged. Non-independent to independent, still using a comma. Now, if we want to separate two independent pieces of a sentence, that's when you start looking for the semicolon or for the comma and, for example. Comma and. So this is something to keep in mind for the future, and I'm sure that we'll see this a couple more times in the text. The rare triangular snowflakes similarly confounded silences for years because it apparently defy the basic laws of chemistry. Okay, so this is one of these linker words. Even though it's in the middle of the sentence, it's actually referring to the previous sentence, right? So what's it referring to? It's referring to this process where there's this specific chemical binding thing, and then they freeze and they make a 6-sided figure. And then there's this triangular snowflake, which confounds scientists. So the first process sounds like something that's well understood. The second process sounds like something that is kind of baffling or confusing. So we want something that highlights that sort of tension. Similarly, this is actually something that is dissimilar to the well-known process. The for example is, again, something that is dissimilar, so that doesn't work. Additionally, again, we have something that's dissimilar. However, is the only thing that highlights this tension. The seemingly triangular shape of these snowflakes suggests that forming through a different process of chemical bonding. Okay, so here the strongly suggests, okay, that we need a direct object downstream of here, right? So which cannot work as a direct object, which like specifies something of the specific set of stuff that we're talking about. Here we don't know what we're talking about yet. We have to be suggesting something. Suggest the manner is fine. Suggest that can also be good, because that can be, a pronoun. So the seemingly triangular shape of the snowflake suggests that forming through a different process of chemical bonding. So here this infinitive form, the forming, is not going to work out. Suggests the manner in which formation through a different process of chemical bonding. So here, in which the manner, suggests the manner, oh my gosh, the manner in which formation could work if it looked a little bit different. So the manner in which the formation happened occurred differently, but based on our sentence structure, this B cannot work. It's just that they form through a different process of chemical bonding is the only one that's going to work. It suggests what? It suggests that they form through this process. By recreating snowflake formation, a discovery is revealed to scientists Kenneth Liebrecht and Hannah Arnold the cause of this apparent variation. So here they are testing something that a lot of students might not realize that they're actually being tested on this ACT, which is passive voice. So the ACT always wants you to write an active voice if ever possible. Active voice is basically we have subject and then verb. So in other words, here the subject of the sentence. Okay, I need to really hammer in on this thing, huh? Okay, good to know. I'm still learning the touchpad. My normal app is down, so this is a little bit different. A discovery has revealed to scientists. So it's not that a discovery reveals itself. The discovery is something that's passive and can't hang out. And in fact, this is called a passive voice because it's like the discovery kind of somehow revealed to itself, to the people. That's not what happened. These scientists figured out what was going on. They discovered it. We want a subject-verb formation. The only one that works here is scientists Liebrecht and Arnold have discovered the cause of this apparent variation, H. Snowflakes begin to form when water in the atmosphere freezes. It causes the water molecules to bond into a hexagonal shape. You guys might notice this doesn't sound good. This is a run-on sentence. We have two independent pieces. Snowflakes begin to form when water in the atmosphere freezes. It causes the water molecules to bond into a hexagonal shape. These are both independent, and we need some sort of separation here. Right now we have no separation, so it can't be that. So freezes, comma, it causes, at least that's separation. But remember when I said above that if you have two independent pieces, you need a semicolon or a comma and. Here we have two independent pieces. We can't join them with a comma. This is a grammatical error that's known as a comma splice. Okay, comma splice. Please work with me here. So C can't work. Same problem with D, right? Freezes, this causes. That's going to be a comma splice again. So B is the only possible answer here. B uses the causing, which makes this second part of the sentence into not an independent piece, right? Makes it non-independent, so then you can join it with a comma. During the flake's descent from Earth's upper atmosphere, other water vapor molecules bumps into the hexagonal structure. Okay, so I gave it away there. Here we have molecules with an S, which means this is plural. We want the plural form of the verb. So bumps is for singular. A molecule bumps, but multiple molecules bump. Has bumped, again, is singular. Bumped could work, but because it's a during here, and they've been talking about this all in present tense, causes the molecules form, bond. We want the present plural, which is bump. I didn't skip anything. Okay, bypassing the liquid water phase, these molecules condense directly onto the established hexagonal pattern. So, okay, here's the first thing where we actually have to kind of read the prompt and figure out what's going on. If the writer were to delete the underlined portion, adjusting the capitalization as needed, in other words, it starts with the those, capital those, the sentence would primarily lose. Okay, so what does this piece of the sentence do? Bypassing the water phase. So it says that the molecules skip a part of, the normal transition for freezing. So let's see which best matches that. An explanation of the process water molecules undergo to change from liquid to vapor to solid. Okay, that actually doesn't explain the process. This just says that it bypasses. A detail that mentions a step some water molecules skip changing from vapor to solid. This sounds good, because it talks about skipping, bypassing. A visual description of what water vapor molecules look like. Nope. That might be later on in the sentence an established hexagonal pattern, but bypassing liquid water phase has no visual description. Explanation now of molecules react to various air temperatures. Nope. I was only talking about cold air temperatures. It's got to be B here. As a result, the flake goes outward in a bigger and more complex hexagonal arrangements surrounding the original hexagonal shape at the center of the flake. In 2009, Liebrecht and Arnold's experiments revealed that triangular snowflakes begin with the same process of chemical bonding and forms a hexagonal shape. Okay. So again, we can look for context clues earlier on in the sentence to figure out which verb form we want here. So triangular snowflakes begin with the same process of chemical bonding. So snowflakes is plural. We have the plural begin. We also want the plural of forms. So forms is for a singular. A snowflake forms. Multiple snowflakes form. This is a compound verb. Begin and form. The triangular shape is an illusion resulting from one significant addition to the process, dust. So here, this sounds like a run-on sentence because it is, right? The triangular shape is an illusion resulting from one significant addition to the process. That sounds like the sentence should be done there. But then we just throw up dust in right at the end here. So no change is not going to work. We need something separating this dust. And then the process would work if we had one significant addition to the process as dust. But because it's downstream of this from, that's not going to work. From one significant addition to the process cannot work as a subject, basically. The colon can work here because this specifies or clarifies what's going on earlier in the sentence, right? They talk about one significant addition to the process, and you might be like, well, what is that significant addition to the process? Well, that significant addition is precisely dust. The semicolon does not work because, again, this is an independent piece of the sentence, but this is not an independent piece. Dust itself is not an independent sentence, clearly. Triangular snowflakes begin to form when a tiny dust particle or other such impurity collides with the flake as it falls, therefore pushing one edge upward. The downward edge of the snowflake encounters more wind resistance than the rest of the flake. The greater the pressure from the wind causes bonds to form quick at this edge than in the rest of the snowflake. Okay, obviously issues there. So here, the greater the pressure from the wind, this formulation demands parallelism, right? So we should see something like the greater the pressure from the wind, the larger the freezing or something, the quicker the freezing. That's not what we have here. So the rest of the sentence constrains this to be false, right? The greater pressure from the wind, which causes bonds to form quicker at this edge than the rest of the snowflake, also can't work, right? We need at least one independent piece of a sentence in order to make this work. The greater pressure from the wind becomes non-independent, which causes bonds to form. Okay, this is going to be more quickly. I mean, come on. More quickly here than there. I've just been tired of reading it ridiculously every time. Causes bonds to form more quickly at this edge than the rest of the snowflake. The which makes this definitely non-independent. The greater pressure from the wind. So that's a great start of a sentence, but it doesn't have a verb. That must also be non-independent. That means G cannot be right. The greater the pressure, as the wind causes bonds to form more quickly at this edge than the rest of the snowflakes. Exact same problem, right? We don't have an independent piece of the sentence, so it cannot exist on its own. J must be the correct answer. Let's see why. The greater pressure from the wind causes bonds to form. So here we have the greater pressure from the wind. This is the subject. That pressure causes bonds to form more quickly. So J is going to be the correct answer. The resulting snowflake has 3 long sides and 3 sides that are so short they are difficult to detect. Although these snowflakes appear to have a triangular shape, they actually have a hexagonal pattern. Okay, so the dash we haven't talked about a lot. The dash is used to set up some sort of surprising information at the end of a sentence. This kind of counts as surprising information, but the dash should be used to basically set off, how am I going to say this? The dash is usually used after your independent sentence is done to add on some contextual information. Here, that's not what's happening, right? The core piece of the sentence is they actually have an hexagonal pattern. The although here sets up a non-independent piece of the sentence. We have non-independent, we have independent. So that's a little bit of a clue, right? The thing that links a non-independent and an independent piece is usually going to be a comma, especially when you have something like this, although, while, even though, all these sorts of things that make a piece of the sentence non-independent generally call out for a comma. That's what's going on here. The semicolon can't work because the first part is non-independent. The triangle. The colon here also doesn't work because it doesn't exactly specify something earlier, right? That specifies something that comes off an independent clause. So, if the sentence were something like, these snowflakes have a different shape, colon, a hexagonal pattern, or dash a hexagonal pattern, all those would work. But because this starts off with this non-independent piece of the sentence, we need to use the comma here. You'll pick up on this as you see more of these, and as you read more. Such snowflakes offer evidence that even when impurities interfere, the basic laws of chemistry still apply. Okay, we have a prompt, which most effectively concludes the sentence and the essay. Most effectively sounds like one of those subjective words, but actually they basically say, okay, most effectively means it should refer to something in the sentence, and it should refer to something else that occurs in the essay. So such snowflakes offer evidence that even when impurities interfere, scientists can be certain that a solution to even the most confusing event will be found. So the impurities interfering doesn't necessarily have anything to do with a confusing event, so B is not correct. Snowflakes will still fall if the atmospheric conditions are favorable. Again, impurities in the snowflake only have to do with the pattern, the triangle of the snowflake, so this isn't correct. Snowflakes come in many different shapes and sizes. Again, that's, the impurities actually contribute to the many different shapes and sizes, so the even when doesn't make sense here. And also, this is really a weak way to end the essay. A is going to be correct. Basic laws of chemistry still apply. Kind of references the beginning here, right? That the red triangular snowflake apparently defied the basic laws of chemistry. This says, well, it actually didn't defy the basic laws of chemistry. There's just a little bit of a misunderstanding, so A will work. So 14 and 15 ask about the preceding passage as a whole. It's very common to see one or two questions at the end of each of these passages on the ACT that ask to go into some sort of analysis. So the writer's considering adding the following sentence to this essay. This growth can take the form of either branching, which forms stable symmetrical shapes, or faceting, which forms unstable complex shapes. If the writer were to add this sentence, it would most logically be placed at point. So A, B, C, D, you might have noticed this on our read-through, are different points throughout the passage where they want us to think about putting the sentence. So one thing to think about is words within this excerpt which point to context. So here I see this growth as being very, very key. So basically the previous sentence should have been talking explicitly about growth in some format, right? So let's look through DCBA. So D, triangular snowflakes begin to form when a tiny dust particle collides with the flake as it falls, therefore pushing one edge upward. This growth maybe could work here, so I'll leave D as maybe. Let's look at C. As a result, the flake grows outwards in bigger, more complex hexagonal arrangements surrounding the original hexagonal shape at the end of the flake. Okay, let's talk explicitly about growth, so I like it a little bit better. Seemingly triangular shape of these snowflakes is just that they form through a different process of chemical bonding. This doesn't exactly have the same context, right? They form through bonding. That doesn't talk specifically about growth. And then A, the rare triangular snowflake confounded scientists because it apparently defied the basic laws of chemistry. Okay, no, nothing with growth there. So between C and D, which is triangular snowflakes begin to form when a tiny dust particle collides with the flake as it falls, pushing one edge upward. Or the flake grows bigger and more complex hexagonal arrangements surrounding the original hexagonal center. So this growth can either take form of branching or faceting. So here they actually go directly into talking about how the growth works, right? There's a downward edge of the snowflake, one edge kind of grows more than the other. So this doesn't make sense in the context of D because it talks about a growth that they can't be talking about. So it must be C in this case. Suppose the writer's primary purpose had been to offer an example of a discovery that changed the way scientists viewed the basic laws of chemistry. Basic laws of chemistry. Will this essay accomplish this purpose? Okay, this is clearly not going to be the case. The entire point of this essay is that although the triangular snowflakes look really remarkable and kind of miraculous, it doesn't change the way we have to think about our basic laws of chemistry. So I immediately want to throw out the yeses and look at the nos. You'll always have this answer pattern where there's 2 yeses, 2 nos for like, should the writer delete this sentence? Has the author done this correctly? No, because it focuses on how scientists are struggling to determine how triangular snowflakes are formed. That's actually wrong. This is all about how they figured it out, basically. No, because it explains that triangular snowflakes appear to but don't actually violate the basic laws of chemistry. Yeah, this is the theme that keeps coming up. Okay, so to keep this one short, because I know we've already been going for quite a while, I'm going to end here, and we'll continue next time with the next passage. So hopefully this was useful to you. One of the main things that you need to get used to is thinking about how to dissect these sentences into its components. So think about how where these non-independent and independent pieces of a sentence might be. And remember that if you want to link non-independent, independent, independent, non-independent, you want to use a comma. If you want to link two independent, you want to use a semicolon, a comma and, or a period and start a new sentence. That's basically the way it boils down. The hard part is recognizing whether it's non-independent or independent. And if you can't tell the difference, just try to say it out loud in your head. Try to say it in your head so you don't disturb people at your testing center, right? Okay, I'll see you next time, and we'll start looking at climbing Mount Fuji. Very exciting.